Hello, my name is EJ LeBlanc. I'm a human learning and performance architect, and today we're going to be talking about a framework I've made to help human learning and communications professionals thrive in the age of DevOps. So why is it important for human learning and communications professionals to embrace DevOps? As Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, said, "The fate of nations is determined in large part by the response to technological breakthroughs." This also applies to professional disciplines. So today we're going to be talking about a history of the four industrial revolutions, and in particular focus on Industry 4.0 and how it provides society value. We're also going to be talking about human communications and learning today, and the problem with silo-based classical paradigms. And in the age of automation, we're going to be redefining human communications and learning professionals, and define DevOps and how that applies to this new framework called CALDO. The first industrial revolution lasted from 1790 to 1880, where steam tech led to massive strides in European science and placed England in a position of privilege and power. England became the workshop of the world until 1880. The second industrial revolution lasted from 1880 to the 1950s, where electronic technology and mass assembly line flourished. This enabled the United States to build upon its previous success and transmute from a debtor nation to a creditor nation. The third industrial revolution lasted from the 1960s until 2010, and this was heralded by the development of semiconductors, mainframe computing, personal computing, and the internet. It's noteworthy that the United States' leadership role in the third industrial revolution empowered America to become a global superpower. Begun in 2010, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. Klaus Schwab, who coined the term Industry 4.0, defines the fourth industrial revolution as a way of describing the blurring of boundaries between the physical, digital, and biological worlds. This blurring of boundaries happens because of the advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, quantum computing, genetic engineering, global positioning systems, and all of these related technologies fusing together to achieve outcomes unseen in the past. Each of the revolutions we've discussed, and certainly I4O, consist of fundamentally disruptive models which have caused industry to undergo a paradigm shift. These paradigm shifts are based on the core of each revolution and what powered it. At this point, it's important to know what a paradigm shift is. According to Joel Barker, a paradigm shift is a set of rules and regulations, written or unwritten, that establishes or defines boundaries and tells you how to behave inside the boundaries in order to be successful. These frameworks of thought attempt to provide methods of understanding and explaining certain aspects of reality. However, once a paradigm shift occurs, not everyone is able to get access to it immediately. For example, the second industrial revolution is yet to be fully experienced by 17% of the world. Nearly 1.3 billion people still lack access to electricity. The extent to which society embraces technological change is a major determinant of progress and success. Education is one of the most fundamental human acts. However, an education system that is not preparing citizens to be happy and healthy in the world they live in is worthless. Given education's importance, should we invest millions of dollars in education to address I4O challenges? Of course. However, there is little correlation between expenditure and improvement in education. As Harless states, we must derive what is to be taught in a fundamentally different way in order to achieve results. Harless's fundamentally different way was to ask, and within the context of the community, collaboratively answer the following questions in order. What is the ultimate purpose and goal of education? What are the student accomplishments desired as a result of the educational process? What is the gap between current accomplishments and desired accomplishments? What are the root causes of the gap, and what solutions or interventions are indicated? What content should be taught? And finally, how should education be designed and delivered, and how should education be evaluated? Joe Harless was zealously focused on accomplishments, or the valuable output of a process or actions or behaviors. Today, we often only just focus on the behaviors, such as hours in training to get a certificate. The Harless focus is on accomplishments, where we determine what we need to do in order to achieve our business goals. In this case, revenues are generated by sales calls, and that specific behavior leads to the accomplishment which enables the business to achieve the goal of profitability. So we ask, what specific behaviors lead to desired valuable outputs? The answer is our accomplishments. As Paul Elliott says, without this accomplishment focus, resources can be poured into helping workers get really good at what doesn't matter. This accomplishment focus is the foundation of the Human Performance Technology Paradigm, or the HPT paradigm, embraced by the International Society of Performance Improvement. So what determines value in the HPT paradigm? Gilbert's first leisurely theorem states human competence is a function of worthy performance, or W, which is a function of the ratio of valuable accomplishments, A, to costly behavior, B. In this example, worthy performance is revenues over sales calls, the cost of which is not just the hourly rate of the employee making sales calls, but the cost of developing the knowledge, skills, abilities, setting up the motivation and incentives, and the work environment. Gilbert loathed what he called the great cult of behavior, or those who focus on producing specific behaviors without understanding or documenting what the accomplishments and outcomes that add value to the society or the organization. A great example of this is found in Michael Allen's book, Designing Successful E-Learning. The subtitle says, "Forget what you know about instructional design and do something interesting." The experience must be meaningful, memorable, motivational, and measurable. The problem with silo-based classical paradigms is the same facing human learning and communications professionals. All of our applications and our silos might work fine. However, whenever we try to put them together, they actually hinder the company's efforts. To understand this, allow me to give a simple example with 3 work centers. Work Center 1 decreases cycle time by 66%. This seems to be good news because Work Center 1 gets more work done. Work Center 1 then passes on the extra units produced to Work Center 2. This process continues. Finally, production has to come to a halt because of the identified constraint. This is why Goldratt asserts that in any flow of work there's a direction of flow, but there's one and only one bottleneck, and any improvement not made at the bottleneck is an illusion. In the example we just saw, it was very simple and therefore very easy to understand why the constraint exists and what the source of it was. However, in today's organizations, we have teams that support the entire value stream, and they interact together in ways that are difficult to determine exactly where the constraints are happening. These complex interactions create nefariously stealthy costs. These nefariously stealthy costs are further exacerbated whenever one takes a few steps back and begins to see the bigger picture. In this case, the individual work centers become massive organizations consisting of thousands and thousands of people. Allow me to give another example. A company called AutoArt goes through the process of designing and developing a car. The assembly line begins production. The marketing team spends millions of dollars on an ad campaign, which includes data, digital resources, and materials that the training team would be able to use to both support internal and external stakeholders in the performance of their jobs. However, whenever training asks the marketing team to share these resources, they are told no, the contract won't allow it, and legal can find no option to enable them to use those resources. Suddenly, walls of frustration appear, further exacerbating any constraints previously identified. Regarding legal and contract management, research has shown a $1 billion organization can expect to lose $18 million each year due to lack of proper supplier contract management. This has profound implications for the rest of the organization, who depends on contract management in order to perform their jobs. To ameliorate this, allow me to introduce the Communications and Learning for DevOps framework, where communications professionals are those who capture and disseminate the source of truth, and learning professionals are those who certify job competency of stakeholders. Again, human communications professionals capture and disseminate the single source of truth across the value stream. Where one party updates the source of truth, all other parties are notified. These disciplines CALDO considers human communications professionals. In the age of automation, human learning professionals are those who support and certify accomplishment-based job competency using evidence-based methods. These are the disciplines affected. Donovan Brown defines DevOps as the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. DevOps is often explained using its 3 ways. In the first way, through a profound appreciation of the system, work flows smoothly. In the second way, feedback, people are able to freely exchange ideas. The first 2 ways enable the third way, a culture of continuous learning and experimentation. The acronym CALMS is also often used to explain DevOps. CALDO aims to enable communications and learning professionals to embrace the paradigm shift that DevOps offers. The CALDO framework enables you to start with one process and improve it collaboratively. You begin by creating intent, assessing your workflows, launching feedback loops, developing a culture of experimentation, and observing and learning. Based on DMAIC and Plan, Do, Study, Act process improvement methods, CALDO encourages loosely coupled architectures. Please read the paper for more details and feel free to reach out if you have questions or just want to connect.